Where's everybody at? It's going to be hard for me to see. Hey, everybody. Where's everybody at? Hey, where's everybody at? Let's get it. I'm going to have a good conversation. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Pop in, everybody. Come on. Where are we at? Where is Nancy Guthrie? Let's have that conversation. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Waiting for a few people to come on in. All I need is just a few. Just to get the word out. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Where is Nancy Guthrie? Does anybody want to have that conversation? Where is Nancy Guthrie? Hey, everybody. Where is Nancy Guthrie? If you can hear me, let me know. Want to have that conversation. If you're interested in the case, this is the time to do it. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Where is Nancy Guthrie? There's one. Let's go. Let's have that conversation. If you're curious about where Nancy Guthrie's at, let's have that conversation. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Just please let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? We can go. We can have that conversation. We'll eventually start doing phone calling. Kind of get everybody's opinion as to where's Nancy Guthrie? What happened to Nancy Guthrie? Let's get it. Come on now. Don't be shy. Step in. Let's have that conversation. You're one. There'll be two to follow, and it'll keep going. Don't worry about that there's not many people in here. Someone's got to start it off somewhere, right? That's what I always say. If you want to hear this Marine talk, this ex-law enforcement officer, investigator, you want to hear my thoughts? I've been posting a lot of videos about this. I would love to have that conversation. Love to have that conversation. If you can hear me, just please let me know so that way I know you can hear me. But here's the thing. I'm just going to go into talking. Since there's one person, hey, that's fine. So the other thing that I had talked about earlier, I talked about the things that probably should have been done by the Pima County Sheriff's Office, not blaming everything on them. Don't misunderstand me, but saying there's a lot of things that were missed, a lot of things that were not done that should have been done. And so now I want to move over to the next thing. So one of the things that was amazing was there was a gentleman who lived not too far at all from Nancy Guthrie who was trying to get over a fence. He was trying to unlock it. And this was at Catalina Foothills. And in that process, he was trying to unlock it. The owners of that residence had called the police. So when the police came out, they showed the individual. They talked to him. They spoke to him. And he was just saying it was late. This was at about 1:52 a.m. in the morning. 1:52 in the morning. I think about that for a minute, because on these type of cases, timing is everything. Time is so crucial. But at 1:52 a.m., this man is trying to get through the back door of supposedly his house. And that's been confirmed. And there's videos out there on YouTube that you can watch. Just type it in and you'll get those videos. But here's the kicker. That was a man down. Here's the kicker. The idea that he was trying to get in through the back gate, the officer met up with him, spoke to him, and apparently he believed whatever this individual told him, okay? Because they let him go. Only later to see a camera showing him walking down the street with two backpacks on. Now think about that for a minute. Two backpacks on. Okay? Can't make this up. I know that the camera at Nancy's house showed one backpack. I get it. Totally get it. I know that it showed one backpack. But that doesn't mean that this guy didn't drop his backpack down or didn't get rid of one of them. But here's the kicker of why I'm bringing this up. Is because the two backpacks that he was carrying, they had some things in it, like And I'm going to say this not because I want people to go, oh, that's what it was. But when you hear him walking in the video, you realize that it's clinging. The stuff that he has in his backpacks, they're clinging. In other words, when he's walking, they're hitting each other. Almost like, I'm not trying to make something that's not there, but if you listen to the video, you'll hear him walking and you'll hear the clinging. And it's almost like shovels, some type of equipment of some sort. So he ends up literally, hang on a second. He ends up literally going ahead and telling the cops that, you know, that he's trying to get in his back door and he's just having a hard time with the latch. Okay. So the cop leaves. Then the cameras show that he is still walking away later. Now, the kicker is that those people called who called the police that someone was trying to get in their backyard. They came out and said, no, that man does not live here. Now think about that for a minute. That man does not live here. Be right back. Give me a second. And just to give you a heads up, everybody, I'm back. I'm going to be in and out of my car, so you just got to bear with me. So he tells the police, the guy that's trying to get over the top of the fence, he tells the police apparently something to the fact that he's just having a hard time unlatching the fence. And for whatever reason, the police says, okay. The camera shows the police officer leaving, and then later that shows him walking away. Now, the kicker is this. This was at 1:52 a.m. 1:52 a.m. approximately. Nancy Guthrie was taken at about 2:20, 2:22 a.m. See where I'm going with this? The owners of that home who called the police originally, they stated that guy didn't live at that residence. Would explain why the cameras were picking him up walking away from the house. Now, I'm not going to blame the cops, but what I am going to say is, you're talking early in the morning. People get tired. Don't know what kind of day this officer had. He could have been just tired, could have had a long day. Could have pulled a double, could have pulled a overtime, I don't know. But there is a clear picture of this individual. Literally, a clear picture of this individual. Think about that for a minute. A clear picture. Good morning. Samantha, good to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for looking for the channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words. Bring Nancy home. Amen. Pass this out to people that you know, because if you know my background, I am a law enforcement officer, was a law enforcement officer, did many investigations, and I'm just trying to get the word out on the little things that people might have missed. So if you could go ahead and pass that out to people, I would really, truly appreciate it. Okay? Really, truly. And thank you so much for being here. I'm going to continue now. Thank you so much. So now that's what happened. And if you got any comments, Samantha, or anybody's got any comments, just let me know. Tell me what's on your mind if you got comments so we can kind of bounce it off each other. So the owner said that man didn't live at that residence. They got a perfect picture of the suspect. All they have to do is do a face recognition. They can pinpoint who this individual is. Go find this individual, bring him into the station. Once again, I'm a firm believer, when you're investigating individuals, you bring them to the police station so you get them out of their comfort zone and you put them on the hot seat. That's just how it works. I know it sounds maybe not right, but that's how it works. And so the idea is that they can find this individual and find out why he lied, what he told the cops, what was he doing there, what was in his backpacks. I mean, the guy also had 2 hoodies on, okay? He had 2 hoodies that were on. In the film, or in the video that they got from Nancy Guthrie's home, it showed someone with a hoodie with 1 backpack. He had 2. That doesn't mean he didn't set one down. Let's be realistic. So it very well could have been the individual. Ironically, at the same almost time that Nancy Guthrie was taken. 20 minutes before. Think about that. So you have this guy. Now, when they gave us the picture originally, and you literally looked at it, you couldn't really see nothing else, right? Except him walking from his car, trying to go ahead, or walking from a car, trying to go ahead and getting into the back. But here's the kicker. Excuse me. When you widen the look, you will notice there was a white Kia Soul. And you ask, why is that important? Because that's one of the cars that passed by Nancy Guthrie's home that night she was taken. That was on one of the video cams. What's the chances that this guy who was trying to get into this home by the back fence, what is the chances that he would also, this white Kia Soul would be right there as well? Think about that for a minute. Look, horseshoes, it's all about luck, right? Some of these things that you see, I mean, come on. It just doesn't, I don't know. I believe it's worth finding this individual and going ahead and interviewing him. And I mean interviewing him to the point where you can see his answers and you can see his body language and you can see his cues coming out. You can see what, because there's things you go to school for to learn how to interrogate, how to read body language and all that things. So you're going to be able to pick up on any type of inconsistency. And if you pick up any type of inconsistencies, kapow. Now you can't hold him for that, but you got something here. And now you just dig in deeper. And now you know what I'm going to do? If I'm the investigator, you know what I'm going to do? I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not only going to investigate him hard and continue to hit him hard, not physically, but with questions, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find out who his best friends are, who else was in that car, did he know whose car? I'm going to do everything I can to turn everything upside down for him so that I can find out, is that car, the white Kia Soul, had any correlation with that individual that was trying to get into the back home of a homeowner that lived real close to Nancy Guthrie. Because I just don't believe this stuff doesn't happen. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe that this stuff is all coincidental. I do not believe that. So, and I don't know what they've talked to this man about. I don't know what they asked him about. I don't know, what their whole theory was. And rightly, I'm probably not going to know because it's under investigation. But this is what happens when you're not giving any type of information to anyone. When you're not giving information to anyone, this is what happens. People start making their own assumptions. They start filling in the blanks. And that's just common. Okay, that's common. That's going to happen. But you could give a little bit to the people to reassure them that you're on top of it, that you know what you're doing. Because I do guarantee you, they know these officers, the police department, they may have made mistakes gathering information, in my opinion, but they know a hell of a lot more than everybody else, right? They're seeing things that have not been seen before. So all I'm saying is that you got to understand that you got to feed a little bit of information, especially like what she was wearing. And I covered that in the earlier video. Okay. So that guy, in my opinion, is probably 1 and 2 on top of the list that I would be, along with the son-in-law, since he was the last one to see Nancy Guthrie, along with Mr. Daly. I would like them to see what all happened to his, because he used to own, Luke Daly used to own a dark blue vehicle. Okay, so there is a lot of interest. There is a lot of reason. And you really need to focus and get this right, because there is so much there that, I mean, you just can't overlook that, man. I'm telling you, if they would have gathered all the cameras and got all the information they could, with the help of, obviously, the homeowners, my gosh, they could have had all the vehicles that went in and out for about the 3-hour span from the time Tomasco dropped his mother-in-law off at her house in the Catalina foothills to the time when they apparently believed she was taken. They could have got every vehicle that went by there. And I would have checked, just tried to locate every single one of those vehicles. Yes, it's a lot of work. But it's like I said before, when it deals with the elderly, when it deals with children, and when it deals with the mental health, there's never too much money that you can spend to help these people. There just isn't. There just isn't. So that would be my thing. He definitely would be in my top 3 that I need to speak to. I need to find it. We need to find this individual, and we need to question him, and question him hard. Okay? There's reasons. Now, I'm not saying that any one of these people that I have mentioned did any crime. Not saying that. And the reason I'm not saying that is because I don't have the evidence for that. But I do have a lot of circumstantial evidence that points that something happened. And I would like to know where they were at, when they were at, and see what kind of pushback I get. I mean, there's a lot of things there. So, once again, those are my thinking process as to why and how come. Those are my things that I would be looking into. Those are things that I would be trying to figure out, because they're crucial. They're freaking crucial. Now, you all remember there was some, Luke Daly had apparently a friend by the name of, oh God, I can't even think of her name, started with an L. Anyway, they were both, God, I can't believe I'm going drawing blank here. But they were both arrested for dealing drugs at the Walmart parking lot several years back. And they were picked up for that. And the problem is that when he was asked if he had he known her, seen her, or whatnot, he said no. Well, we know that that's not true, because 8 months later, he was with her, spotted with her. And once again, it's those little inconsistencies, the lacks of truth, that are the ones that always seem to are what you're looking for, that little nugget. You know what I mean? It's that little nugget you're trying to get. So that's why I'm throwing his name in there along with Tomasco, because he's the last one to see her, along with the individual that was trying to get into the fence, along with there's 3 other individuals who were living, I believe, in an Airbnb/rental home about 3 houses down from Nancy Guthrie. They were living by Nancy Guthrie. They moved out the day after this happened with Nancy Guthrie. Quickly, they moved out. And I would be finding those people and talking to those people, finding out, why did they leave so fast? Why did they get up and go? Why did they take off? What was the reason? What was the issue? Did their lease expire? Was their lease up? What was it? It just, once again, it's those little things that happen that a lot of people tend to not understand, that could be the backbreaker of something. Literally the backbreaker. So that's another thing. And it's not telling what's happening. You're not seeing anything. You know what I mean? You're not being told anything. So once again, people will make their assumptions. But there is some things that the investigating teams, now being the FBI, I don't think Pima County is involved in it anymore. I think it's all FBI. But up until that point, there's a lot of little things that could have come out that could have been beneficial in at least tracking down who knew about what was happening. I mean, that's common sense. You follow me so far, everybody? I hope you do. I hope you follow me. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. But that's important. That's literally important. Because the reality is that without that, sometimes it's the littlest, simplest things that can change the whole dynamics in what happened. Now, I personally do not believe, and I covered this earlier on some clips and videos. I believe this was all about money, in my opinion. I don't know that for a fact, but in my professional experience, I believe this is all about money. This was all about trying to get some type of ransom. Because you had to know where this house was at. You had to know where this house sat at. You had to know literally what you were looking for, because in the middle of the night, you couldn't see nothing. You couldn't see your hand. You understand what I'm saying? You couldn't see your hand in front of you because there's no lights out there. For whatever reasons, this little area doesn't allow street lights. Don't ask me why, but they don't. So it was pitch dark. Now, I don't have the answer as to, this, that, or the other, but I will tell you this. Somebody who went there had to know the layout of the land. They had to know what they were dealing with. They had to know where to step, where to go around. They had to even know when the hell the house sat, right? They had to know where the house was at. Because here's the thing. You couldn't see the house from the road. You couldn't see the house from the road at all. So you had to know, literally, where this house, the layout. You had to know everything about her movements. What did Nancy do on a daily basis? What did Nancy do? What was her routine and her schedule? You had to know that. Because that's the only way you could get understanding of the lay of the land. Which tells me, usually, that's going to be somebody that knows a little bit more than your average Joe about Nancy Guthrie, where she lives, and what she does. That's, to me, it's just common sense. But it's because I've worked in these things before, and I understand, not how hard something is or how simple something is, but if you just look at the evidence and and what it's all about, you're going to find that that's what's going on. You're going to find that all this stuff doesn't all add up and paint a picture to nothing. Contrary, it literally paints a picture of something. And if you have all the elements together, you're going to see what that picture is. But you got to go ahead and get all that information. That's just a fact. You got to get that information. So that's where we're at. That's where everything's at this moment. Now, there have been FBI here in the last couple of days. FBI has been back. They have now apparently visited back the house that was a Airbnb and or / rental home. They're now looking that over again. You would ask why? Well, probably because the 3 people that lived there just picked up and left after what happened to Nancy. So that's another thing. And I think it's important to understand that, because the reality is that you got to be able to understand what's going on. And the FBI is going back to that location. Now, there's a couple other locations. Apparently, they're looking into people who were doing construction work out there. Construction work, when you do construction work, I mean, let's face it and be honest, it's not hard to bury somebody out there under literally concrete, right? So there's a lot of things that they're checking. Sorry, but I think I was froze up there. We can sit back and pretend like nothing's going on. But the reality is that no, there's a lot going on. You understand what I'm saying? All right, give me a minute, everybody. I'm going to finish here up. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. All right, everybody, I'm back. So, if you can, tell me, do you guys got any questions, or what do you all think? You think I'm full of shit? I'm crazy? Do you think you got some other theories? Do you like the information? Can you see why it's important? Tell me what you all think. Because it does matter. Believe me, it does matter. Can you guys hear me? Shoot up a like. Subscribe for free. You don't have to pay anything. Just subscribe. Tell me what you think. Leave your comments. I mean, this is a live chat so that we can like interact and talk and kind of figure things out. Tell me where you're from, if you don't mind me asking. Tell me where you're from. But I'm telling you, this channel is going to take off because it's already taken off. It's just right now, people, I'm just starting to do these lives about the Nancy Guthrie situation, the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie, or the taking, or fill in that blank. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of information out there. And I believe that there's more than enough information to at least ascertain warrants, to have talks with people. Literally. And I'm not talking about just knocking talks. I'm talking about interviews, interrogations. Not in a bad way, in a good way. To be able to communicate and find out, you know, what is it? What is the thing that's missing? So I just think that there's a lot there. And it's just, we just need to be understanding that because there's a lot there, yeah. So I'd like to know where you're all from. Tell me, if you don't mind. Tell me where you're all from. So what we got here? Watching from Michigan. Oh, rah. Love Michigan. Well, I'm from Ohio. That's where I'm from, is Ohio. Not too far away. Awesome. Wolverines. They played today, by the way. In the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, they played today. I've got to go get something. Give me 1 second. Don't go anywhere. Let's have that conversation, everybody. Think about what you want to ask or what you think you might want to know. Think about that. I'll be right back in about 30 seconds. Okay, I'm back, everybody. Awesome. Thank you for responding from Michigan. Awesome. Where's anybody else from? I know there's a few more people in here. Where are y'all from? Like I said, I'm from Ohio. Northwest Ohio. So that's why this is important. That's why this is crucial. And I see a lot of times, a lot of the crime junkie podcasters, I call them crime junkies because they're into doing the stories of these type of things. But a lot of times they don't understand why officers can't release, these integral parts of what's going on. They can't release them. Sometimes they can't release them because only other person that knows is the bad guy, person who did the evil thing. Hang on a second. Yeah. Okay. Just wait there. Bye. So that's what I'm saying. That's where it's at. And I think sometimes, people tend to make things more complicated than they need to be. My opinion. Sometimes the facts are staring you right in the face. You know what I mean? They're staring you right in the face. And it's that simple to figure out. So, I'd love to hear what your all's thoughts are. I know there's not a lot of people in here, but believe me, you all ones who are listening, you are going to go ahead and spread the word, no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. Spread the word. I'm going to be putting my other number so we can have a conversation and you can tell me and we can call in and kind of compare notes. Just trying to get the feel of the lay of the land, if you will. That's what I'm trying to do right now. So let me say this, Samantha, if you got any questions or anything, let me know. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you at least, hearing what's going on. But tell me what you think. Do you find it like at least somewhat knowledge that I'm providing? Do you find it somewhat helpful understanding what's happening, or are you just more just like tuning in to tune in? You know what I mean? Excuse me. But that's to me, this stuff has always been a part of me. That's why I was in law enforcement for so long. This stuff has always intrigued me. I never liked it, obviously, as far as liking see people get hurt or taken or whatnot. Never liked that aspect of it. But the unknown has always been something that has intrigued me. And that's what I call this, the unknown, because we don't really know what the heck happened. I mean, I think that's fair to say. We don't know what happened. So I'm going to touch on a lot of topics and a lot of, stuff that's going on. And, right now I'm always on the move here lately, so it's kind of difficult because I'm on the go. But this evening I'll be going live again. I'm not leaving just yet, but I'm just saying this evening I'll be at home and I'll be able to go live again. So give me that second. Hold on that thought. Don't go nowhere. All right, I'm back. So that's where we're at. So that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of things that I think could have been done differently. A lot of things to gather information could have been done better. But I mean, it's easy to pick apart these things. You know, it's easy to pick apart all these things that are happening once they've already happened. You know what I mean? Let's see what we got here. Santa says the children and elderly are most vulnerable. Great to see people like you out trying to help find and figure out what happened. Thank you. Appreciate the kind words. There's still a lot of good people out here. No doubt about it, Samantha. There's a lot of good people out here. And you're right. We live in a crazy world today. We live in a crazy world that just sometimes doesn't seem, I don't know, crazy, I guess. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of hope with everything going on. I mean, everything. But in the same token, I have to believe that in our better angels, we have people that really truly care about those. We've all had grandmothers. We all know people. If we don't have kids yourself, we all know people who have children. We all know people who are mentally disabled or just, disabled, period. And those people, they don't have the luxury of having anybody speak for them or watch over for them. Sorry, give me 1 minute. I've got to drop this off here. Hang on. So I'm back. So that's really what's going on. And I wish that I could get more people to understand what's happening. Oh, we're still live. Waiting for some other people to come in and jump in. Had a good, thank you so much, Samantha. I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming aboard and saying the kind words. Really means a lot to me. And there's got to still be hope in this world for people to help people who just can't help themselves. You know, that's very important. But saying that, I appreciate you coming on and you know, sharing your thoughts. If you could pass the word out to others, I would really appreciate it. Like I said, eventually I'm going to be giving my other number out so that people can call and we can have that conversation. So just bear with me and we'll go ahead and get that done. Oh, hey baby. Was he? Uh-huh. Right. Love you, baby. Thank you. Hey, got another individual in. Is this still Samantha or is this someone else? Leave your name if you went ahead and are in here and you got any questions or any thoughts on the Nancy Guthrie case. Any opinions? By all means, please leave your information. God, I hate this damn thing. So why I'm in and out, just so you all know, why I'm in and out when I'm driving is because I am door dashing. So I'm able to have that conversation so that we can go ahead and have that conversation. It's just the only downfall is that I'm constantly getting out. Well, not constantly, but enough. So when I say, hey, I'll be back, you know, 30 seconds is just because I either got to grab something or I got to drop something off. So if you can just bear with me on that, I appreciate it. But anyways, that's what's going on. That's what's happening. That's the thing where we, in law enforcement, you have to do a good diligence on your job. Because the reality is that the slightest thing, the most thing that you can think will interfere or cause problems, the one thing that you think is not important can be so crucial. Can be so crucial. And so it is important that, they look for all these clues and they talk to everybody. Now, there's other people of interest. There's a name out there that's being brought up constantly. Kalia. I think I'm saying this right. He's from, I'll just say he's from California, but he had sent Tomasco and Annie a text message asking them if they had received the Bitcoin so they could make that transfer. This is at the very beginning. He ended up getting arrested. They ended up finding his location, and he said he was just, he thought he could make some money, trying to capitalize on the situation, and found himself in some deep trouble. So there's a lot of things there. So that's what's going on there. But they ended up charging him, and but when you look at his profile and who he is, he's affiliated to certain people who are affiliated with other people who are affiliated. You see what I'm saying? It's like everybody's affiliated with something, and it's not always good. And therefore, it seems like there's suspects all over the damn place. And that's why you have to literally do your due diligence, because, man, if not, you're running from rabbit hole to rabbit hole, literally. And that does no one no good. Nobody any good. All right. Let me pick up this, and I'll be right back. Give me 1 sec. All right, I'm back. All right. So that's pretty much in a nutshell where that's at. But there is other people that have been mentioned, and there is other people that literally, other people who are potential suspects. Even a link to, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a lady, I shouldn't say that, but a knucklehead, him and her, that was at Nancy's doing this photo shoot. She was about half naked, literally, and dressed all in black and high heels, not high, just regular heels. I'm talking like gothic high heels. And it just looked like a mockery, in honesty, to me. I felt like it was, I don't know, I just felt like it was very distasteful and should have never happened. But for whatever reasons, they felt that they needed to be there, letting the lady strut around, knowing everybody was watching. But they were linked. It was brought up, it was reported on other podcasters that they were linked to a satanic cult. Now that's where the thing comes in, was it a satanic cult who did this? Because of them being linked, to a satanic cult, as reported, then it became one of those things where Jesus, like, theories are flying everywhere. And then during that time, I think it was like on February 7th, they had this satanic gathering / I don't know what, I can't think of what the word was called, but I'm just going to call it a brothel. And people that were there were linked to other people that knew other people who knew people that were associated in some way, shape, or form to this case. So that was another thing that was brought up. But here's the thing again. To me, it had to be somebody who knew, literally, who knew downright the layout of the land. And they just don't strike me as knowing the layout of the land. However, the people that they knew or were affiliated with, they might have known. Once again, it's kind of hard to say in these things, but it definitely is going to go back to money. Money is going to be the root at the end of the day, I believe. And here's one of the reasons, because even though there were some credible people who were trying to go ahead and get a try to get Bitcoin, 50,000. Now it's up to like 1,200,000 put up by Savannah and whatnot. If anybody leads to information, bringing her mother home. And the idea that literally, sorry if you can't see me too well, it's that sun blaring right on it. But literally, the idea that they were, linked in some capacity, some way, shape, or form. And money does people crazy things. But you still have to know everything. I mean, to do something like this, and so many people say these were professionals. I don't know if it was a combination of the people. They don't strike me as professionals who did this. In fact, I would say the opposite. I just think there was a lot of people who dropped the ball, literally. They dropped the ball from the very beginning. And because they dropped the ball from the very beginning, that's when everything started to go awry. That's what's making this thing so complex. The things that you would normally see, you're not seeing on a case like this. And the things that you would expect, you're not seeing or hearing. And the things you would expect, you're not getting either. So it's almost like everybody did something to contribute to the difficultness of trying to find out what happened to Nancy. Everybody had a plan. It's like everybody did the wrong thing, which tells me these people who did this, they didn't have a plan. And the reason I say that, let me explain why I say they didn't have a plan. Because if it was literally the idea, I believe they wanted the ransom. They knew who Savannah Guthrie was. She was there at El Churro, at a Mexican restaurant, supposedly, and the cameras were there, and they did basically like Savannah Guthrie coming home, and she was from that area, and her and her mom went to this restaurant because they would always go to this restaurant, El Chorro, and the idea that they would always go to this restaurant, they had a big spectacle, they had news people there and everything, so right away it wasn't hard to establish that, to find out that Savannah was worth a lot of money. And in the same token, they could get a payday on a ransom, is my thinking. Now, the problem was, I think something went wrong in the process. You got to remember, Nancy Guthrie had a pacemaker. And because she had a pacemaker, her heart could have gave out. And if her heart gave out, well, guess what? One thing you got to have to get ransom money is a proof of life. And they could never send a proof of life from the beginning to the end because there was no proof of life. Hang on that thought for a minute. Okay, I'm back. So the one thing they could not do was provide a proof of life. And if you can't provide a proof of life, you're not going to get any monetary because no one's going to take you serious. That's why I believe that this was something that went wrong quickly. Then you add the idea that they were going ahead and you have the idea that they were going ahead and they found some little spots of blood in front of Nancy Guthrie's door, her front door. Now, so many people are going to have so many different theories. They're going to say, well, it's, they planted it there. I don't buy none of that. I honestly, I think what they, as sickening as it is, I think what they did is somehow she got struck with probably the gun that perp had, that they showed the camera with, that was in his front pocket, or not his pocket, but his front, in his front pant holder. And I believe they did that to get her, get her unsettled on her feet. Like it's like a technique to make sure that they're like not focused and they don't know what the heck's going on, right? They call it a stun. In law enforcement, if you hit somebody because let's say they're being aggressive and they wanting to fight, and you can stun them first, and you hit them usually in the head, they got to take time, and by that time, while they're trying to get their marbles together, you're cuffing them and doing all that kind of stuff. But I think that's one of the things that was done here, that they were trying, or they weren't trying, something went wrong. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense to me.
She got struck in the head. She started to bleed. Yeah, some say that she could have tore her arm because she was on blood thinners, and she could have tore like a piece of, skin. And anybody who knows anybody about blood thinners knows that they bleed like a sieve. So I'm just saying that, I think that had part to do with it. But what wasn't realized was that her heart gave out because she had that pacemaker. And I could see that being the end of the end. And then they say, well, she was in there for 40 minutes. They were in there for 40 minutes, this, that, and the other. If they were there for 40 minutes, in my opinion, I realized it went totally wrong. Literally, it went totally wrong. Everything went wrong. And I believe in my heart of hearts that when it went wrong, they literally could not, they didn't know what to do, because it's like the golden goose, right? She's gone. There's no way to give a proof of life. And if there's no way to give a proof of life, you're not going to get any ransom money. So I believe that's exactly what happened. They couldn't give a proof of life. They were all probably like, not just frustrated, but they were probably all like wondering, what the heck are we going to do now? Because that wasn't in the plan. And that's when everything started going awry, And had they left her there, that would probably been the common sense thing to do, is leave her there. But if she had passed. But the idea, by taking her, I think they were trying to cover up some tracks, and the only thing they did at the end of the day was created more suspicion in tracks. I know sometimes it seems like people will go ahead and try and like cover up tracks, but at the end of the day, they will all come out. It may not be today, and it may not be tomorrow, but they'll resurface. Those tracks will resurface. And that's what people don't understand. Especially if you're doing a crime. I mean, there's very seldom, are there very few people who are literally mastermind criminals, that they have their I's dotted, their T's crossed, and as far as they know, they're like, they know what the hell they're doing. That's not what I see here. I see these people as opportunists. I see these people as people who thought it was going to be something simple, and it could have been a big payday, and it turned to go south, and now they're facing, well, we know Arizona has the death penalty. So if they ever get caught, they're facing the death penalty. I mean, and rightly so. Rightly so. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to look at. But the big thing is what I just said. A lot of people just don't understand. When something goes array, it goes south, they panic. Because here's the thing, no one would have stayed in that house for 40-some minutes. Nobody. I mean, they disconnected the cameras. If they had known, they would have known that Nancy Guthrie literally didn't have a subscription for those cameras. So she didn't even have a subscription. They had to do a lot of finagling with Google to get, and the makers of that camera system, they had to go through hoops and hurdles to get those pictures, those videos, if you will, because she didn't have a subscription. And yet those perps who went there to get her obviously didn't know that because they were disconnecting those cameras. You follow what I'm saying? So if they had knew about it, they would have never done that. It was a waste of time. I believe literally that, yeah, senseless. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. And that's just my take. There's a lot more to go over and a lot more to talk. I want to build this channel so that we can have these conversations. I want to be able to go ahead and have the people. I got a lot of people on YouTube, but I want to be able to have a lot of people that are into what's happening today. See what Samantha says. Samantha says, what about James, the drunk guy that showed up in the front of Nancy's house that claimed he was looking for Brian Guthrie? Oh, totally spot on. Totally spot on. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you're right. Looking for Brian Guthrie. Give me a second. I got to pick one up. Hang on 1 second. We'll get on that right now. All right, I'm back. All right. Samantha's still here. So, yeah, what you said about the drunk guy that came in asking for Brian Guthrie, you know, that was definitely another suspect, you know. And I'm not sure, no one has really talked about this guy, right? No one's talked about, like, so they could follow up. You know what I mean? No one has talked about the following up of this individual. That's just not normal, right? That is just not normal for someone to come there and say he wants to. For all we know, maybe Brian owes some money, you know? Very, very good point. Let me read your other comment. True, true. There was another guy that was taken. Absolutely. Absolutely, there was another person taken. And that's the whole thing. Hang on a second. And you're right. All right, I have to go straight. And you're very right. There was another person that was taken. And you can't dismiss those things. They're important. They're very important. So once again, I haven't heard about what they found. Now, once again, the cops are not going to tell us what exactly they have or don't have on these individuals. But it was almost the same as the other drunk guy that came there saying that he knows who did it. Remember that other guy that came down there saying he knew who did it? It was that lawyer. Oh, I can't even think of his name, but he mentioned the guy's lawyer. And he said he's corrupt, he's working for the cartel, this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. You remember that? So that's another one. Now, that one I do think they followed up. It wasn't long after that happened that the sheriff's department went ahead and came out there and ascertained to some of the podcasters that were out there who was this guy, what was his name, and what was he saying, and was there somebody driving for him, which was obviously the guy's dad, is what he claimed. So yeah, there's so much things that are happening, and you're right. I mean, that's the whole thing. We see it. Something Noah. Yeah, something Noah. And it's very strange. True. Why did they call Senator Kelly? The family. I'm not really sure what the whole issue with that was, other than to say maybe they thought he could put some pressure on Nanos to go ahead, the sheriff, to go ahead and do more than was a part of he was trying to because if I'm not mistaken, Kelly was from that. He's a senator, but he's from that was his area, if you will. His what do you call it? Those are his constituents. So maybe that was what was going on. You know what I mean? I mean, it's very probable. And you're right. I just look at that as being the family trying to use their resources. They knew who Kelly is. The mom was a big, to my understanding, she was a big Democrat. She wasn't a mover or shaker, but she was definitely a Democrat. And so it's very possible that that's exactly what happened. They were trying to utilize everything and try to get somebody to put a fire up Nanos' rear end. But yeah, those are very good points. And it's obvious you know a lot about the case too. So that's always nice, and that's the things I like to hear, because sometimes, believe it or not, I've been in law enforcement for a long time, but I can tell you I don't know everything. Sometimes you guys up with these theories and these ideas, and they all make sense. They all make sense. So that's why I'd like to have these videos and these calls and these lives so that we can go ahead and literally have that conversation. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. So you're right. I mean, Kelly, that was a big thing. But like I said, I could understand that. I could understand that, in all honesty, because he's there and he works for the people. And if I needed, somebody to get someone's attention, and, yeah, I probably would have tried to use those resources too. No doubt about it. Very good point. Damn it, man. That was a very good point. Let's see what else Samantha says. Yeah, they did. They did call Senator Kelly before they called the police. Sorry, I'm moving my camera. I'm just trying to read. They didn't bring my glasses with me. Because honest, truly, I wasn't going to do a live. But I thought, what the hell? Glad I did. All right, let me turn right here. Hang on one second. So you're right. Let's see here. Think Cameron Guthrie was in the Air Force. Could there be a connection in regards to the missing military airman guy in New Mexico? I mean, it's always possible, honestly, but I don't know. I mean, Cameron was not only just in the Air Force, retired from the National Guard, pilot, flew F-16s. I think his net worth was over $1 million, or like over $2 million. His net worth. I don't see him needing really anything that would, cause him to do that. You know what I mean? Sorry I'm eating, but I haven't ate all day. So, that is a probability. That is very much a probability, but I just don't see that. Because of that reason. I mean, you're going to jeopardize everything you have accumulated, your stature in the community. I don't know. I don't think. But, no theory is a bad theory. In all honesty, no theory is a bad theory. Everybody has a theory. And that's what makes this really interesting. I'm not eating anything fancy. Just grab some breadsticks. Little Caesars. But there is a lot there. I mean, truthfully, there's a lot there. And you're right on the money. I mean, here's the thing. The idea that anyone would take any theory off the table is beyond me. Because right now, there's just not a lot of what I would call good theories out there. I shouldn't say good theory. There's not enough. There's nothing substantiating what has happened. You know what I mean? Let's see, I gotta read this. Okay, I'm reading yours. It said, why won't the police release the video of Tommaso bringing Nancy? I've asked myself that. Good point again. I've asked myself the same thing. Why wouldn't they release that video? Because if they had the other video, right, of the perps in front of Nancy's house, I would assume he drove up there and they had literally I would assume that they had evidence of Tomasco not only dropping her off, but if in fact he left. And honestly, that wouldn't hurt the case at all, because unless they suspected Tomasco did this or he never showed up, and that's why they maybe suspect him. This is all just thinking outside the box. But I could imagine, yeah, that would be like, oh my God, why don't we have footage of Tomasco dropping her off? He went all the way to the house. Why don't we see lights, headlights? You can't drive in the dark. Why don't we see, headlights? Why don't we see anything leaving? Tail lights. That's a very good point. And I've thought about that. The only thing I would say is probably maybe he's on their top 2, top 3 list of suspects, right? So once again, you don't want to show your hand all at once. You don't want to show your hand on what you have, because still a lot of it is circumstantial, right? And when you don't have a body, it's very difficult to build a case without a body. You can build it. You can build a case, a very strong case, but it takes a lot of circumstantial evidence. It takes witnesses. It takes statements. I mean, it takes a lot of stuff. But isn't our elderly worth it? Give me a second. I gotta go pick up. Give me 1 second. Very good questions. Damn. All right, I'm back. Yeah. But those are good questions. Very good questions. No doubt about it. Let's see. What else we got here? Supposedly they have... Yeah, I know. I heard some stuff about that. That there was people in the back. They had cameras. I don't know if those were the people that were... You remember when there was a couple people out there when they were riding their dirt bikes or whatever in the hell in the back? And there was a time when some individual, I think it may have even been Cameron, it was somebody in that blue vehicle and asked, what the hell are you guys doing here? Or what are you guys doing here? Or something to that effect. And I was thinking maybe it was the people that were driving their dirt bikes, in the back, or their whatever. Three-wheelers, four-wheelers, whatever in the hell. But I did think that. I thought that, as in, I wonder if that was it. But you're right. There was people in the back, and they have footage of it. And that's the thing. When you don't tell anything and you don't release anything, I mean, just your bare minimum, then people lose faith in the system. People lose hope in the system, and then there's no trust there. And that's the problem. That is literally the problem. So I totally agree with what you're saying. There shouldn't have been anybody. Well, here's the kicker. If you want to know the truth about the screw up, one of the biggest screw ups from the sheriff's department, and I'll put this on Nano since he's the sheriff, the head guy, buck stops with him. They didn't even put any crime tape up around that whole property line. I mean, I'm talking about crime around the house, the whole property line. They should have had crime tape put up, and they didn't. I mean, it was so unprofessional. It was sad. That's what I saw. It was so pathetic. They had no crime tape around that whole property. They should have, if she had 5 acres, I would have had 5 acres of property done. Why? Because that's her property. You never know where the person would have taken Nancy, right? And you would have kept everybody from contaminating or causing any bit of contamination to the evidence from any aspect. And that's just common sense. And that wasn't done. Got to pick up something. Give me a sec.